What would you do if the people you trusted the most suddenly told you you're no longer needed? That's exactly where this story begins, and honestly, it hits a lot harder than you'd expect. Right before the final battle against the Demon Lord, when everything should be at its peak, Jin gets hit with something completely unexpected. His own party, his closest companions, tell him to leave. No warning, no build-up, just a clean decision. And not just anyone. This is the hero's party, the same group he's been traveling with since the very beginning. At first, he doesn't even process it properly. You can tell he's confused more than angry. He tries to ask what's going on, but they cut him off and remind him of an old promise. Back when they first started their journey, they agreed that if anyone became a burden, they would step away. And now, that promise is being enforced. When you look at it from the outside, it's not entirely unfair. Jin had a skill that made him grow quickly at the start. So early on, he carried a lot of weight for the team. But as time went on, the others, Ricky the hero, Yuri the saint, and Ria the sage, became insanely powerful. The gap kept widening, and no matter how hard he tried, Jin just couldn't keep up anymore. So in high-level fights, instead of helping, he started slowing them down. And that's the painful truth here. He's not kicked out because he hates him. He's kicked out because he's no longer strong enough. And the way he reacts is honestly kind of sad. He doesn't argue. He doesn't lash out. He just accepts it. You can tell he already knew this day might come. That quiet acceptance makes the whole scene feel heavier than if he had just gotten angry. Each of the girls reacts differently, but none of them are truly cold about it. Yuri and Ria clearly feel bad, and even Ricky, his childhood friend, doesn't look relieved. In fact, she makes a promise that stands out a lot. She says once they defeat the Demon Lord, she'll come back for him. Now, personally, when I heard that, I already had doubts. Not because she's lying, but because situations like that rarely stay simple. Once they defeat the Demon Lord, they'll become heroes of the world. Their lives won't be normal anymore. Going back for one person, it sounds nice, but reality doesn't usually work like that. Jin seems to understand that too. He doesn't call her out on it, but you can feel that he doesn't fully believe it will happen. After saying his goodbyes, he leaves quietly, trying to keep things as normal as possible. No drama, no scene, just a simple thank you, even though it clearly hurts him. That part felt very real. But here's where things start getting interesting, because while Jin thinks this is the end of his journey with them, for the girls, it's actually the beginning of something else. Later that night, we see Ricky alone in her room, and her thoughts completely flip the situation. She's not thinking about the Demon Lord seriously. She's thinking about Jin. More specifically, she's thinking about marrying him. Turns out, their relationship goes way deeper than just party members. They've known each other since childhood, and Jin has always been someone special to her. Back when she struggled to control her power, he was the only one who stayed by her side without judging her. And at some point, when they were kids, they made a promise. If she defeated the Demon Lord, he would marry her. Now that explains everything. From her perspective, kicking Jin out wasn't rejection, it was protection. She believes the final battle will be dangerous, so she wants him away from harm. Her plan is simple: defeat the Demon Lord as fast as possible, then go back to him and fulfill that promise. It's actually kind of sweet, but also a little reckless, because she's making decisions for him without telling him the real reason. And she's not the only one. We then shift to Yuri, the saint, and her thoughts reveal something completely different. While Ricky is thinking about a future after the battle, Yuri is focused on Jin right now. Her feelings are deeper than expected. Since childhood, she's lived as a saint, constantly praying for others, but never having anyone truly understand her. Jin was the first person who treated her like a normal person instead of a symbol. He didn't see the saint, he saw Yuri, and that changed everything for her. So while Ricky is planning a future marriage, Yuri is already at the point where she's ready to throw away her status as a saint just to be with him. That's a huge shift. Giving up something like that isn't a small decision. And then there's Ria. Her situation is a bit different, but just as intense. She's an elf who lived for a very long time, and because of that, she's basically missed the normal timing for relationships. Most people avoided her, and she started believing she would never find someone. But then she met Jin, and unlike everyone else, he didn't treat her like a problem or a burden. He appreciated her, he respected her, and when she joked about ending up alone, he casually said he'd marry her if it came to that. For him, it was just kindness. For her, it meant everything. So now you've got three incredibly powerful women, all in love with the same guy, and none of them are planning to back down. Meanwhile, Jin has no idea. After leaving the party, he heads back to his hometown, with Ria helping him get there using teleportation. Compared to everything that just happened, this part feels calm, almost peaceful. He's nervous about returning home, unsure how to face his parents after everything, but when he arrives, they welcome him normally, without any judgment. That moment moment gives him a bit of emotional relief. And then Ria does something completely unexpected. Before Jin can even explain anything, she introduces herself to his parents as his fiancée. No hesitation, no build-up, just straight to the point. The reaction is exactly what you'd expect. Shock, confusion, chaos. Even Jin himself is completely thrown off. He tries to slow things down, but Ria doesn't backtrack. She openly tells him she loves him. And this isn't played as a joke, she's serious. Jin, to his credit, doesn't immediately accept or reject her. He takes a more realistic approach. He admits that he doesn't love her yet, but he's willing to try and see her that way moving forward. Honestly, that response felt surprisingly grounded. In a situation like that, jumping straight into "I love you too" would feel fake. This way, it actually feels believable. Just as things start to settle, everything gets interrupted again. Out of nowhere, Ricky and Yuri crash into the scene, literally. What follows is complete chaos. All three girls immediately start fighting over who gets to take care of Jin, arguing over healing, attention, and basically who gets priority over him. And in the middle of all that, Jin just passes out. Not even joking. The guy gets overwhelmed and blacks out while three top-tier characters argue over him. When he wakes up the next morning, things somehow get even weirder. He finds Yuri sleeping right next to him. At this point, you can feel his confusion stacking up. First, he gets kicked out, then confessed to, then attacked by his own party, and now he wakes up next to the saint. It's a lot. But Yuri acts completely calm, like this is normal. She talks to him casually, asks how he's feeling, and even starts discussing the future like nothing strange is happening. And then comes the biggest reveal. The Demon Lord is already defeated. Not after some huge final battle, not after a long struggle, it's done. Just like that. Apparently, Ricky took him down almost instantly. That part is honestly kind of funny in a weird way. The entire journey builds up to this massive final fight, and it ends in one hit. Even the characters themselves don't make a big deal out of it. For them, the real focus has shifted completely to Jin. Now that the world is at peace, Jin assumes everything is over. He plans to go back to a normal life, farming, hunting, just living quietly. But Yuri isn't thinking the same way. She starts talking about the future and casually brings up marriage. Not as a joke, not as a maybe, as something she fully intends. Then she confesses properly. And this one feels different. Unlike Ria, who was straightforward and bold, Yuri's confession comes from years of emotional buildup. She explains how much she meant to him, how he saved her mentally, and how she wants to stay by his side. Jin, again, is completely overwhelmed. And honestly, at this point, I don't blame him. In the span of what feels like a single day, his life has flipped completely. Right as Yuri presses closer to him, pushing things further than before, you can feel the situation reaching a breaking point. Jin is barely holding it together mentally, and everything around him is moving way faster than he can process. And right at that breaking point, Ricky shows up. Perfect timing, honestly. If she hadn't interrupted, things probably would have escalated in a way Jin couldn't handle yet. Both of them immediately try to act normal, throwing out weak excuses, but it's obvious something was going on. Yuri quietly backs off, saying she's already said what she needed to say, and leaves to give them space. Now it's just Jin and Ricky. The atmosphere shifts completely. Instead of tension, it becomes awkward. Not hostile, just heavy. They lie down together like they used to when they were kids, and for a moment, it feels nostalgic, like they've gone back to a simpler time. But it doesn't stay simple. Ricky starts talking about Yuri, casually pointing out her good traits, but then slips in something unexpected. She says her feelings won't lose to anyone. That's when it clicks. This isn't just nostalgia for her. She's serious. Jin, on the other hand, is still trying to process everything. In his mind, Ricky has always been like family, almost like a little sister, but the way she's acting now doesn't fit that image anymore. Then she challenges him to arm wrestle, and this part is actually kind of funny. Jin goes all in, thinking he at least has a chance, but Ricky completely destroys him using just one finger. No effort at all. It's a reminder of how far apart they've grown in terms of strength. But right after that, she shifts the tone again. She pins him down and asks something direct. Why doesn't he sleep beside her like before? He tries to explain it in a normal way, that things are different now, that they're not kids anymore, but Ricky flips it instantly. If he's thinking like that, doesn't it mean he sees her as a girl now? And before he can answer properly, she kisses him. No hesitation, no buildup, just straight to it. And that moment hits Jin hard, because for the first time, he can't deny it anymore. He does have feelings for her, not just as family, not just as a companion, something real. But that realization comes with a problem. He's now got 3 people who all confess to him, and he hasn't given a proper answer to any of them. And right when he starts thinking about that seriously, Yuri and Ria come back. The mood instantly gets tense again. They pick up on something being different right away. Yuri even straight up asks if something happened between them. Ricky gets flustered, tries to brush it off, but it's obvious enough that the situation has changed. Then they casually drop something that completely resets the situation again. They've already decided on a wedding venue. At first, Jin doesn't react. It sounds so absurd that it doesn't even register. But when they clarified that the marriage they're talking about is his, everything crashes down at once. Now it's not just feelings anymore, it's real. All three of them are serious, and not just individually, they're aware of each other too. That's when the situation finally becomes unavoidable. Jin realizes he can't keep dodging this. He can't just stay quiet and let things play out. He has to face all of them properly. The scene at the table really shows that pressure. All three girls sit on the same side, close to him, watching him, waiting. It's not aggressive, but it's intense. And for a second, Jin actually tries to run from it in the dumbest way possible by switching sides of the table, but they immediately follow him. That's when he finally understands something important. They've all known about each other's feelings this whole time. This isn't some hidden rivalry. This is a situation where all three of them chose not to fight each other and instead decided to face him together. At that point, running away would just be disrespectful. So he stands up and finally decides to be honest. The first thing he does is apologize, and this part is important because it shows how seriously he's taking this. He admits that in the past, when he made promises like the one with Ricky or what he said to Ria, he didn't fully understand the weight of his words. To him, they were casual. To them, they were everything. Then he talks about something deeper, his insecurity. He admits that leaving the party hurt him more than he showed, not just because he was removed, but because he felt like he failed, like he couldn't stand beside them as an equal anymore. That feeling stuck with him, but after spending time with them again, outside of battles, he realized something. Being with them wasn't just about fighting together, it was about the connection they built, and that connection didn't disappear. So instead of choosing one, he makes a decision that honestly feels crazy at first, but makes sense for this story. He proposes to all three of them at once. He admits it clearly, he can't choose, not because he's greedy, but because his feelings are real for each of them in different ways. He knows society won't accept it easily. He knows it's complicated, but hiding from it would be worse, so he puts everything on the table. And for a moment, there's silence. Then they laugh. Not in a mocking way, more like relief, because from their perspective, this is exactly what they wanted him to realize. Ricky steps forward first, her usual confidence mixed with emotion. She tells him not to underestimate how long she's loved him. Yuri follows, softer but just as certain, and Ria, calm as always, simply confirms that her answer hasn't changed from the beginning. All three of them accept, and just like that, it's decided. Jin, who started the day getting kicked out of his party, is now engaged to all three of them. Honestly, the speed of this shift is kind of wild, but at the same time, it doesn't feel random. Everything was building towards this. It just all exploded at once. But of course, accepting the relationship is one thing. Making it work in the real world is something else entirely, because now comes the actual problem: status. They're not just normal people. One is the hero, one is the saint, and one is a sage. You can't just casually marry all three as a random villager. That's not how society works in this world. So they take the next step. They go straight to the king. And this part is unexpectedly funny because instead of being strict or intimidating, the king immediately runs up and hugs Jin like a proud grandfather. Turns out he already knows him well and has been watching his role in the hero's journey. That alone says a lot. Even if he didn't think he mattered much, people were paying attention. When the topic of marriage comes up, the king doesn't reject it. In fact, he understands it pretty quickly. But there's a clear condition. If Jin wants to marry all three of them, he needs status. Specifically, he needs to become a noble. That's the only way society will even consider accepting a relationship like this. At first, Jin doubts it. Becoming a noble isn't something you just do. It usually requires massive achievements, things like military success or groundbreaking contributions. And in his mind, he doesn't qualify because he wasn't there for the final battle. But the others immediately shut that down. They remind him of something he's ignoring. The Demon Lord has already been defeated, and even if he wasn't there at the very end, he was part of the journey that made it possible. The king agrees. He makes it clear that Jin's contribution mattered, that the journey itself wasn't just about the final fight, it was about everything that led up to it. And because of that, he approves it. Jin is recognized, not as a burden, not as someone who fell behind, but as someone who was necessary. That moment feels like a quiet payoff for everything he went through earlier, from being told he's no longer needed to being acknowledged at the highest level. After that, things move into a more relaxed phase. Back at home, there's a celebration. His parents are happy, the girls are openly talking about their their future, and for the first time, everything feels stable. But even then, one small problem sneaks in. When Jin asks a simple question, who goes first in the wedding, it immediately turns into competition again. All three of them claim it should be them. And just like that, you're reminded that even though they agreed to share him, they're still rivals. Now, right when things feel settled again, the story quietly shifts somewhere else, back to the Demon Lord's castle. And this part introduces something new. The Demon Lord isn't acting like a villain anymore. After being defeated, he's completely changed. Instead of wanting to conquer the world, he now wants coexistence with humans. That alone is strange. But the real reaction comes from his daughter. She can't accept it. To her, this change feels wrong, like something unnatural has happened. She believes the heroes are responsible, and she refuses to accept a peaceful ending. So she makes a decision. She's going to take matters into her own hands. Just when things finally start to calm down, you get that feeling. It's too peaceful. And yeah, that feeling turns out to be right. While Jin and the others are slowly settling into this new life, far away from all the chaos of the Demon War, something else is already moving in the background. The Demon Lord may be gone, but the story definitely isn't over yet. We shift back to the demon side, and this is where things start building toward the next conflict. The former Demon Lord is completely calm, almost too calm. He already knows what his daughter is planning, and instead of stopping her, he just lets things play out. That alone feels suspicious. His daughter, Hina, is the complete opposite. She's furious. In her eyes, the demon race didn't just lose, they were changed, and not in a good way. Her father, who used to be a terrifying ruler, now talks about coexistence with humans like it's normal. She can't accept that. So she sets her target clearly, the heroes. More specifically, Jin and his group. And the way she says it, it's not just revenge. She wants to drag them into fear, to break everything they've built. And then she heads straight for the royal capital. Now, back on Jin's side, the tone is completely different again. Out of nowhere, Jin suggests building a house. It sounds random at first, but when you think about their current situation, it actually makes sense. All four of them are living together in one cramped space. No privacy, constant tension, especially with his parents occasionally walking in on them. Yeah, that's definitely not sustainable. Rhea immediately reacts strongly, saying it's impossible, mostly because she's thinking practically. But Ricky flips sides instantly and supports the idea, calling it a love nest without hesitation. And just like that, it becomes a real plan. To escape the chaos for a bit, Jin takes Ricky outside, and this leads into one of the calmer, more personal moments in the story. They sit under a tree, away from everyone else, and for the first time in a while, things feel quiet. He braids her hair, something simple but meaningful, and you can see how much that small moment means to her. She's been waiting for this kind of one-on-one time for a long time, and then Jin does something unexpected. He becomes more forward about it. Instead of holding back like before, he hugs her from behind and admits that this is what he's wanted to do. That shift is important. It shows he's no longer just reacting to their feelings. He's starting to act on his own. Ricky is clearly happy, but also a bit overwhelmed. And honestly, this part feels like a natural progression. After everything that happened, it would have been weird if he stayed passive forever. Of course, the moment doesn't stay private for long. Yuri and Rhea show up again, somehow sensing what was going on. And yeah, they don't let it slide. This teasing, jealousy, and that same competitive energy comes right back. Then we move into the house building part, and this is where Rhea really shows off. She doesn't just plan the house, she summons an undead dragon to do the construction work, which is kind of insane when you think about it. But in this world, it actually fits, and it also reinforces how powerful she really is. At the same time, the whole who's the better wife competition starts again. Each of them tries to prove their value in different ways, whether it's supporting him, cooking, or just being closer to him. Jin, instead of getting overwhelmed again, handles it better this time. He keeps things moving, assigns tasks, and brings everyone together. And then we get a really nice scene, everyone cooking and eating together. It's simple, but it hits differently. No battles, no pressure, just normal life. And you can tell Jin values this a lot. After everything he went through, this kind of peace is probably what he wanted all along. But of course, peace doesn't last. A letter arrives from the king. At first, it feels like it might be something serious, but it turns out to be about the wedding. The date is set 1 month from now, and the ceremony will be held at the royal palace. Now, this part goes deeper than it seems. On the surface, it's just a wedding, but politically, it's a huge move. The kingdom's using this event to strengthen its position, unite people after the war, and control the narrative. Jin doesn't fully understand all that, but the others do. And then comes another important detail: the reason the king is so supportive. It's not just about Jin, it's about Ricky. The hero's power is tied to bloodline, meaning their future children could inherit that same power. So from a political perspective, this marriage is extremely valuable. Now, to be fair, the king doesn't seem like he's trying to manipulate them in a bad way. He actually refused other nobles who wanted to use Ricky for their own gain. Instead, he chose to support Jin because he trusts him. Still, the underlying reason is there. And then the conversation somehow shifts into something completely chaotic again. The kids they're gonna have. Ricky suggests a huge number, Yuri agrees, Ria goes even further. Jin is completely overwhelmed. Honestly, that part felt like a reality check. The guy just got engaged and now he's being hit with future family planning at insane levels. After that, things calm down again, and the king sends them off to enjoy the city. The capital is lively, almost like a festival. People are celebrating peace, and you can feel how much the world has changed after the Demon Lord's defeat. To avoid attention, they use disguises and walk around like normal people. And this part is actually really fun. They see food modeled after themselves. Cakes, bread, even exaggerated versions of their features. Some of it is flattering, some of it is... There's even something representing Jin, and the rumors around it are completely ridiculous. But instead of getting annoyed, he starts to realize something important. They made an impact. Even if he didn't think he mattered, people know about them. Their journey changed the world. Then there's a smaller moment that stands out. He sees kids playing pretend heroes just like he used to, and it hits him that things have come full circle. He's no longer chasing that dream. He lived it. There's also a funny but slightly awkward moment where Ria brings up something personal, her insecurity about her body. It sounds like a joke at first, but for her, it's actually serious. And Jin handles it carefully this time. Instead of brushing it off or getting confused like before, he answers properly. He reassures her, even if he's a bit awkward about it internally. The important thing is, he doesn't make her feel bad. That shows growth. And then things get a bit chaotic again, when the girls get jealous of each other over something as simple as who got more attention from it. And yeah, Jin ends up overwhelmed again. But this time it's lighter, not stressful, just messy in a normal way. Right near the end, though, there's a small shift in tone. Jin gets separated from the group for a moment and notices a situation where an adult is confronting a child aggressively. And the way it's framed, it feels like setup, like something is about to happen. And if you remember what's going on in the background, with the demon princess already in the capital, it's not hard to connect the dots. Something is coming, and it's probably going to hit right when everything seems stable. That's where this part ends. And honestly, the story balances things pretty well. It gives you a lot of light, wholesome moments, but keeps that underlying tension alive, so it doesn't feel like everything is resolved. If I had to give a quick overall opinion, the story does something interesting. It starts like a typical kicked out of the party setup, but instead of turning into revenge or power fantasy, it shifts into relationships and character dynamics. Sometimes the pacing is a bit fast, especially with how quickly the romance escalates. At the same time, the characters feel consistent and the emotional beats usually land. The biggest strength is probably how it mixes chaos and calm. One moment everything is serious, and the next it's just normal life again. And now with the demon princess entering the picture, it looks like the story is about to balance those two sides again, peace and conflict. So yeah, things are definitely not over yet.